Good afternoon. I'm Laura Zervis, and welcome to the May Lending Hearts class. It's our nutrition class, and we always do a nice cooking demonstration. And my name is Laura Zervis, registered dietitian, licensed nutritionist, and I have a private practice in Bethel Park where I work with my clients to achieve wellness through dietary and lifestyle modifications. So I always try to bring you some great recipes, try to keep current with whatever is, the topic du jour. And right now, there's always so much focus, and we talk about it probably at every single class. If this is your first one, I'll tell you, we always talk about anti-inflammatory eating. And of course, that means the Mediterranean eating pattern. And I always try to include foods that fit that criteria. So we could still enjoy things, but yet we're getting some of the micronutrients and the phyto compounds that we need and that help us to, live in an anti-inflammatory state or eat in an anti-inflammatory state. And today's topic is, taking things like making some foods that we could take with us as we enter picnic season. We just had the holiday weekend behind us, but certainly June, dads, grads, and we have 4th of July coming up, and we have our friends and family asking us to bring a dish maybe to their function, or maybe we're hosting our own function. So you want to have some things that are going to travel well, some things that are some menu items that will hold all day without being refrigerated. Sometimes that's the last thing your host wants to hear is, hey, I brought this huge dish and it needs refrigerated. And, sometimes your hostess might not have the room. So just trying to bring some dishes that travel well for you and that are also anti-inflammatory. And then we have so much to discuss about not only the ingredients. I want to show you a few labels of some things that we're going to be using and point out the nutritional value of some of the things that we're using. And of course, cooking methods, and wrap that all into one session. I always try to pack the most into every session. So of course, today is no different. We're going to prepare 4 items that I think that you're going to like. We're going to do a classic tabbouleh. And if you don't know what that is, we have a lot to talk about there. We're also going to do an almond flour berry crumble bar. So we're going to get that one started right away because that has to go into the oven for a little bit. We're also going to do a yogurt marinated chicken kebab, and also our Mediterranean chickpea and feta salad. And that's going to be really nice too. So let's get going. Let's get our almond bar in the oven as soon as possible, because that has to be in the oven for about 25 minutes. So I've already preheated the oven. I've washed the berries. Let me adjust my camera so you could see the ingredients and what we're going to do today. So let's just get started right here. So you could see I'm going to use almond flour today, and also some oats. And I have here some melted coconut oil. And then we're just going to, and some maple syrup right here. And we're going to press that into the bottom of our parchment lined baking pan. This is an 8x8 baking pan. This one works best. I mean, you could probably use a pie pan if you don't have this. I would still recommend putting the parchment in there. But since we're going for that bar kind of feeling, I wanted to just keep it square so we could have some nice rectangular pieces. So let's get started. We're just going to mix everything in that almond flour. And of course, you could use other flours and make that adjustment. I was trying to keep this one. I'm trying to keep everything as much as possible. Some of my recipes today, maybe plant-based and a little bit gluten-free. So this one, we're going to use almond flour, and we're just going to stir this all together. We have the almond flour. Let's put our coconut in here too. I mean, our oats. And then we'll get this all stirred together. Not sure how I want to do this, which bowl is bigger. Then we're just going to press this into the bottom of the pan. And that should be enough. If you need to add, if you find it, it's all getting nice and moist. It should be, a little, you see, we have a little crumbs in here, but for the most part, it's sticking together. You could use butter. Again, I was just trying to keep this plant-based. And that comes out very nice. And then we're going to, while we have this, let's add our ingredients to um, for the berry part of it. Okay, so let's set this aside, and then you see my berries here today. I have a combination of blackberries, red raspberries, and blueberries. And of course, if you've ever talked to me about fruits, I will always say that I prefer the berry family because again, highest fiber, lowest sugar for the quantity for the serving size. So we're going to put that in there and we're going to add a little bit of maple syrup and also some fresh lemon juice, probably about a teaspoon of fresh lemon juice. Pour that in there like that. And we're also going to put some chia seeds in here too. That'll thicken it up for us. I'm just going to place that on the stove. Now this is, you can see we're using, instead of using sugar and making a simple syrup, we're just going to use a little bit of syrup and we're going to use the chia seeds too. I'm just going to give that a quick stir. And we're just going to probably put this on the stove for about 5 to 10 minutes. You could use frozen too if you do not have fresh on hand, but where we're located, it's berry season, right? May is strawberry season for sure. And in the summer, we'll start getting some more. We'll just put that on real low. Add just a little bit more of my lemon juice to that. And we're also going to add our syrup. I wanted to get that mixed in first. Okay, so let's keep stirring this. And that's making a nice this makes a nice, any type of crumble. If you're making an apple crisp or any type of fruit crisp, this is a nice topping to put on it. It's also going to work well for our crust. So we're going to save some of this. We're going to put about 2/3 of this. So just remember I'm going to take some out so I don't use it all. Try to see here what I have and just take out 1/3 just so I could do some crumble on the top. Okay. And then we're just going to press this down. We're going to put it on our parchment. And I already, for the base of our pan, I might save a little bit more. For the base, like I said, I lined it with parchment, but I also sprayed this with a little bit of avocado oil. Just so it lifts out real nicely for us at the end. You could just use your hands. The heat of your hand actually helps this all come together too. Then you could just work it really well. Into all the corners. But it's nice to have something like this. We do have the syrup in here, but not too much. You could also substitute for honey. You don't have to use any at all. Okay. Just try to press it evenly. Also, if you have a nice little rolling pin, which I used to have one, you could also put that in here. Try to get it flat if you're concerned that you have some high spots. Okay, so we're just going to leave this sit. Like I said, we're going to put some of this on top. A little bit in this corner here. Okay. All right, so let's let this sit, move our pan over. Let me rinse my hands and then we'll check on the berries. Just turn those up a little bit. And you don't want to, it's not like other recipes where we're smashing them. We're not, just making them a little bit tender. They're going to be in the oven, but just letting all this come together real nice. The chia seeds will help this thicken too. Okay, so while that is on, just going nice and slow there. We're going to set our crust aside and we're going to work on our kebabs because they got to get into the oven too. And we're going to bake those instead of broil them. And let me show you before I adjust the camera, I'm going to show you them. Right now, I had them marinated because they need to marinate for at least 2 hours. You could do overnight, a minimum of 2 hours. And what is in here is I use boneless chicken breast. You can use thighs, but the beauty of using Greek yogurt is that the acid and the proteins help break down the other protein that is in the chicken. So it's going to be very moist. It's going to cook nice and evenly. That's why if you remember, sometimes people may use buttermilk in their chicken recipes or they'll soak it in buttermilk. Even some cuts of red meat, you might stick in some buttermilk or milk just to help that process, especially the tougher cuts of meat, like if you're doing a flank steak or something like that. So it's, like I said, we could use the thigh, but since it's going to keep it nice and moist, I thought, why not use the chicken breast just to keep the fat a little bit lower? But it's going to give it a real nice taste as well. So what is in there? So I started talking about the acid in the yogurt. What else is in there is lemon juice, garlic. I did a little smoked paprika. That's why it's a little bit orange. And also some oregano. So that should be really nice. I'm just going to let these go another few minutes. I just don't want them to catch. Okay, so what I did was I just let this soak. I cut them into cubes. And before class, also I soaked some wooden skewers in some water. You don't have to do that. I like to do that, especially, if it wasn't raining, I would put these outside today, but we're going to go ahead and bake them in the oven. You could broil them as well. But since we're baking our bars, I thought maybe we might just bake them all. We'll probably finish them. So let's go ahead and we're just going to skewer these. And I hear my berries in the background. I hate to get our hands all dirty here. Yeah, I think we're gonna get this in the oven first. Let's get this in the oven and then we'll finish our chicken. These are ready. Okay, so, and this is real easy. We're just going to, let me adjust my camera so you can see what we're doing. We have the berries fresh from let me show you what that looks like. You could see and it's fun to use some different berries. I like to use the raspberries. They came apart a little bit, or other berries stayed intact. You know, just fun to use different ones. And it could be all blueberry, could be all raspberry, could be all strawberry, whatever you like. And you could even add banana to this. You could add apples. Just some berries, some of our bigger berries over there. We're just gonna work that around, make sure they're even. I don't want to have too many blackberries in one spot. Make sure every little piece gets one. I did about 2 cups of berries. I think that should be nice. And now we're gonna put the rest of our crumble on top. I'm just gonna take some in my hand. I'm not gonna press this like we did with the bottom. I'm just going to crumble. And if, this is the beauty of this. Some places it's going to come together. Some places our berries may come through. So it'll be nice. And of course, I made this in an 8x8 dish. We could always double this and do this in a 9x13 if you're going somewhere. There we go. So there we go. There's our crumble. And we'll get this in the oven. It's only going to be in there for about 25 to 30 minutes, but I just wanted to make sure that it was done before class was over. So look how nice that looks. Oh, I'm going to put my timer on so we don't burn it. And now that we have our hands ready to go, I just wash them. We can put our skewers on. And I typically like to do this with some plastic gloves, but today we are just going to put them on there. Also, we could also do some green pepper, red pepper, tomatoes, onions, mushrooms on with this too. And you don't sometimes you have the idea that maybe you want to wipe this yogurt off. Do not. Whatever yogurt sticks to here, just leave on. That is what's going to make it good and stay moist. So we'll just start there, see what that looks like. And, again, they're all about the same size. And sometimes, with something like this, I like to do my vegetables separate. Sometimes I just do a skewer of vegetables because I like the meat to be able to get, we want this chicken to get to internal temperature of 160 degrees. And sometimes the vegetables don't need to be in that long, or they're done sooner, or they're done later, because that's two different things, vegetables and this protein, two different items. So of course they're going to cook at a different temperature. Keeping them the same sizes will help. And for this particular recipe, sometimes it's just nice to have them separate. And you don't want to put them on too tight. You want to make sure that there's a little bit of space in there between them. So they have a chance to cook, because they're going to, if you put them too tight, they might get overdone on the edges and not cook in the middle. So when we take the temperature, we're going to be sure to take it next to the skewer. Let's get those on there. And again, I would prefer to do this out on the grill, but it's pouring down rain today. So we're just going to go to plan B and keep it in here. I can tell you it smells amazing. And this was I only used a half cup of yogurt and all those spices for all this chicken. And if you know ahead of time, really, you could see that that's going to be extra. You could always, I think that's all the pieces of chicken I have. You can, let me wash my hands really well here. If you have a lot, a surplus of the yogurt mixture, you're probably it's a good idea to reserve some. You could always, serve some on the side as a dip. But after that chicken has been in there, you just wash, wash, wash. After that chicken has been in here, you have to discard that marinade. You cannot use that again. You could baste it if you wanted to baste the chicken. I don't think that's going to be necessary. But if you baste it, then you have to make sure if you get that temperature up to 160, if you get that internal temperature up to 160, and then you put some basting material that the raw chicken was sitting in, then you have to make sure that that comes up to 160 as well. So that's why you don't want to marinate too close to the end, because it doesn't have enough time to come up to temperature. So it's a good idea to, if you think you want to dip some of your chicken into that marinade, I would definitely, and not, we typically don't do marinades, but this one is could be like a yogurt dip. Before you put the chicken in there, take out a few tablespoons, put it in a small little dish for dipping, and, refrigerate that. When the chicken is fully done cooking, then you could use that. But you can't, once the chicken's in it, that's pretty much it. So let's get this in the oven, and we're just going to keep an eye on this one too. Okay. So just wanted to make sure that we washed everything down really well, that we don't have it. Wanted to make sure my hands are clean. We're also going to switch out our cooking boards. I wanted to get that in the oven. Otherwise, I would do all the vegetable items first. So let's get started on that next one. And I'm real excited with you. Sometimes I do a lot of the the prep ahead of time, of course, the chicken had to be prepped for a good bit ahead of time, and the berries, some of those things have to be done. But this other items that we're going to do together, because I really want you to see how we're going to do that. So that's going to be, we're going to do our tabbouleh next. So let's talk about the ingredients in tabbouleh. So I used just a red bulgur wheat. All this is, if we look at the ingredients, is whole grain red wheat. That's it. So if you have a wheat allergy, you could always make tabbouleh. The main ingredients are parsley and of course mint and our bulgur. But if you have a wheat allergy, you could always substitute quinoa and still get the same type of effect and be wheat and gluten free. So that's something to keep in mind. So I think you'll still get the essence of tabbouleh because the real essence comes from the parsley and the mint. So, and then you get the little bite from the bulgur, but I think you would also get that from quinoa. So we should do that for another class too, when we're doing a gluten-free class. So just important to know. And let me, in case you're not familiar with this, a quarter cup, 150 calories, 33 grams of carb, 5 grams of fiber, and that's about 18% of the calories, 18% of the daily value for fiber. So just below that 20%, which makes it a good source of fiber, but still it's a decent source, and it could be a healthy part of your diet. So really nice to do that. And then we're only using, I believe we only used a half cup in our recipe, and then it swells up. So it's part of the show, but it's not the whole show in tabbouleh. So let's get those other ingredients going. So I am going to adjust my camera. Let's move our ingredients for our almond bar. So this is I did have to cook the tabbouleh before class, and you'll see some different ways of instructions for cooking that. I added both together, brought it to a boil and cooked it for about 12 minutes. And I just let it sit here, and I just kind of broke it up a little bit, and it's going to has a nutty smell, and it should be a little tender to the bite, but we don't want it mushy and we don't want it too hard. So some careful, you want to make sure that you really check it every once in a while and make sure that it's the proper consistency. So let's just set that aside, and we're going to process our parsley. And for this, we need about a cup of chopped fresh parsley. So let me just do that so you can see my food processor. You can do it either way. I I like to use the food processor for this to get it consistent. And the reason I didn't do this before class is because I wanted to show you. I used my salad spinner to do this, just to make sure I get all the liquid off. And I did this early this morning, so there is no liquid. If you're doing it right before that, definitely use some cheesecloth, wrap it in there, and then just squeeze out the moisture. And I just wanted to tell you to discard. I'm going to discard these stems. You don't want to be biting into anything like that. And let me tell you, the reason you don't want to bite into this is because we're not cooking this. And that's the other reason why we want to make sure that we wash it very thoroughly. I washed this, I bought this, it was organic, all my parsley. I don't have enough parsley yet from my garden to use, but if I did also, I would wash it 3 times to make sure that water comes out nice and clear, that it's insect free, it's dirt free. This isn't going to be cooked. So it's very important to make sure that you have clean hands, that we have a clean cutting board, that everything is nice and clean, because it's not going to have a chance to be killed by the heat. And I'm just getting rid of like this, the larger stems. Smaller stems are okay. We're going to chop them up pretty fine anyhow, but we just don't want to have these big ones. If we were cooking this in a soup or a stew, some of those bigger ones don't matter because they're going to cook down, but this isn't going to have the opportunity to do that. So we just want to make sure. I'm just showing you all the pieces here. This one, it's a little too thick. Even if we do put it in the food processor, it might be too much. Sometimes those still don't get chopped up well enough, and you're going to end up with a big chunk. And it's really the star of this is really these beautiful leaves. And I have not seen tabbouleh made with flat leaf. Maybe you could use a combination of flat leaf and curly. I like the curly, and that's typically what a classic is going to have. And I don't know that we're going to need all this, but I'm still going to chop it up. And I also use some of this for our other recipe that we're doing. Right, so let me just move this out of the way. And we'll give this a little whir in the food processor. And I'm gonna just adjust this so you can see this. There's gonna be a little bit of noise. Click it into place. You can see it's gonna engage there and engage here. Always hold the top. And just, you can pulse it. Most you can pulse, and you can also just, and that's the other reason why you want this completely dry. If it has any moisture left in it, it's just gonna stick to the side and it's not going to be as small as you want it. So let's look at this now. And that's perfect. That's just the way we want it. And this smells amazing. Okay, so let's measure this out. Okay. And we need about a cup. Take your blade out. So typically that was a whole bunch of parsley. And not a whole bunch, but a whole, that's how they sell it in the bunches. So that's going to be about just about 1 cup. So we may as well use it all. Okay. So first we have our bowl here. I just picked up a nice bowl for us. And I will show you all of my prep. We have our tabbouleh. Let me move my food processor out of the way so I could show you all of my prep. Okay, so we have it here. We have olive oil, lemon juice, some salt, fresh ground pepper, about 2 cloves of garlic, chopped fine. I also have some mint that I did not cut yet, and I did not food process that. We just want to cut that. I have a few scallions and a cucumber. So we will get that started. I'm just going to set my bowl aside here. We're going to put our herbs in there and our scallions. In there. And then we'll put our mint in there. And we need about a 1/2 cup of mint. And you have to be very delicate with the mint. You want to make sure you're not too aggressive with it. It bruises easily. It's in that basil family. So if you have any leaves that are just a little bit darker, you could take them out. Again, we want to take out, let's discard that one. And the other ones, we just want the leaves. We don't want these hard stems in here. So I would just remove all of these. A little bit easier to do this than with the parsley. As far as just getting the mint leaf, it smells so good. My goodness. And then the dressing on this, reason I love this too is the dressing is, lemon juice, fresh lemon juice and olive oil. And if you've never had, a fresh lemon juice and olive oil, I highly recommend it. For a vinaigrette, it's going to be equal parts of lemon juice and olive oil. I always like to add garlic to that combination and oregano. We're not going to add the oregano to this recipe, but it just keeps it so bright. Bright is the best adjective I could think of for this type of dressing. So we're just going to do it like this. We're not going to go crazy. And it's just bringing out all those wonderful Oh, sorry, that we could see here. Okay, and we're also going to add this. Just don't have enough room today. Oh, that smells so good. All right, so we have that in here. And we're going to add our scallions and our cucumbers and our tomatoes. So let's get those chopped next. Those scallions, I removed that outer little sheath. And we're going to use the white and the green, and we're just going to give those a nice little chop. And I'll probably go over these again too. And you want to make sure that these are on the smaller side. Um, just because I don't think you want to have your guests biting into a large piece. I love scallions and I do eating them whole, but in this dish, we're just going to keep them small. And remember, when you're doing a dish like this, you want everything to be uniform. And it's when you're talking about all the spices. And this would be, if you had this and, think about how small our garlic is. So that's good right there. And we want this to go throughout that whole dish too. So we're just going to add that. And we're going to add our garlic. While we add that, I'm going to give this a little bit of a stir while we're cutting up our other items. Just let this kind of be together. Make sure the mint and the parsley all gets mixed together so it's even. I think we've got it. Good job in there. And we have our scallions. All right, now we're going to add our cucumbers and tomatoes. I have about a cup of grape tomatoes, and I have about a cup of cucumber as well. And I thought we would we'll just have these. That's what we need to do. If you want, you could do some slices. It just depends what you prefer. Whatever you do, try to keep it consistent. I'm just going to do some slices here to get like maybe 3 to 4 circles out of each tomato. Use cherry tomatoes, you could use grape tomatoes. Right now, this time of year, these are the best. In the summertime, of course, our summer tomatoes are going to be even better. And I would just do about just a nice fine dice on those as well. And I don't typically like to put them, you see how we have a little bit of juice, but it's not, and it's just our nice juice from our tomato. If you put these in the food processor, they get all frothy and foamy and not what we're looking for in this recipe. So, right, and let's add our cucumber. And again, if you have watched any of ours, we always try to make a flat edge. When you're trying to cut a cucumber, you don't want it rolling on you. That's when you get cut. So let's make some nice flat edges here. And I just chose that type of cucumber because it has the least amount of seeds in it. All right, and we're also going to add our bulgur. It smells so good already. You see how my bulgur is nice and fluffy. You want to make sure it's nice and fluffy. Mix this all together. Look at that, how beautiful. It's just such a inviting dish. And I always like to put this one, I mean, you could put it in any serving dish you want. I like to put it in a clear bowl just so you could see how beautiful it is from all angles. Okay, so make sure have it all. And that's why it's important for your tabbouleh to be nice and fluffy because it's just going, you don't want any clumps in here. But to be nice and uh, loose. Okay. So now we're going to make our dressing. I'm just going to set this aside. And we're just really just going to mix some olive oil and vinegar. So, and it's equal parts. Or olive oil, and lemon juice, sorry. Got a little seed in there. Get that out. Think anybody wants to bite into that. Can't get my hand on it. Some salt and some fresh pepper. Make that nice emulsion. Okay, let's stir that over, pour that over our tabbouleh mixture. Okay. There's my page. We'll just keep that out. And if you have the fresh black pepper, that makes it very nice versus ground pepper that you've purchased. And if you let this, it's a good idea to let this refrigerate. You may need to, let it come together a little bit. If you're taking it somewhere, or if you're having it for dinner, you may want to let it refrigerate for a little bit. And that looks amazing. And then you may find too, when it comes out, you may need a little bit more salt and pepper and a little bit more lemon juice and olive oil. So I'm going to check on my bar. That should be done. So let me get those out. Okay, our crumble is still a little coming along here. I just wanted to show you our kebabs. I'm just going to give those a turn. And you could see they're nice and a lot of juice coming out of here. So if you wanted to, you could always take a little bit of that off. They look very nice. So again, separately, I would do my vegetables just to keep them, everything getting done at the same time. Get this back in. And then we'll take out our bars in a little bit. And I'm just going to adjust the timer. Put on a few more minutes. Our crumble was supposed to take around 25 to 30. I put it in at 25. It needs a few more minutes, so I'll check on that shortly. Let's make our next dish. And it's, you may have seen it. This one is so popular because it's a really nice, quick and easy, colorful dish of summer that has a lot of the summer vegetables in it. So let's get that over here. Let me just move my prep and save our pepper. Of course, we're gonna need our pepper for that too. We'll just put that over here and bring this prep up. And again, another nice bright dish, meets all the criteria. Where is my, I wanted to save something. I wanted to show it to you. It was for the garbanzo beans. Here it is. So this one has, let me just show you all the ingredients for this salad. This is our Mediterranean chickpea and roasted red pepper salad. So we have chickpeas, roasted red pepper, Kalamata olives, red onion, feta. We have some of that beautiful parsley, a little bit of cumin, some Dijon mustard, salt, and some red vinegar, red wine vinegar, and olive oil. So I wanted to just show you about our chickpeas, and I just happened to, I like all brands. I just happen to use this one. This is what my store carries the most of. So let's look in comparison. I think we said that our bulgur was 18% of the daily value for fiber. And this one is telling us for 1/2 cup of the chickpeas, 120 calories and let's see, 19 carb for fiber. So a net carb of 15, so that would be our serving size. And that is 14% of the daily value for fiber. So also a decent source, not a good source. A good source is anywhere 20% and above would be considered a good source of fiber. So just to keep that in mind whenever you're reading your food labels, that daily value, while it can be confusing, it is very helpful. And if you just remember two things, it's the 5-20 rule. If it's 5% or less, it's low or not significant. If it's 20% above, it's high or considered a good source. So just if you don't remember any of the other numbers, if your dietitian tells you, well, you should have 25 grams of fiber, you should have 35 grams of fiber per day, and you're trying to get it and you're trying to add all those up in your head, just know if you just keep reaching for some good sources, that will help you meet those targets as well. So let's make our next salad. Again, we'll be making the dressing with this one. So let me, and I already, oh, I forgot to tell you about one of the ingredients, arugula. And I already put that in the bowl for us. So this is very easy, and you should, so these are some nice ingredients to have on hand too, if you ever want to make this salad. You know, feta, you should be able to keep on hand for a little bit. Mustard, you know, red onion, the Kalamata olives, the garbanzo beans, the parsley, typical things that we might have on hand. So this comes together really fast. And if you were invited somewhere, you could always throw it together. Arugula, maybe you don't have, maybe you could put this over baby spinach, or you don't have to put it over anything at all, or you could put it over some type of another grain. You could put it over that quinoa, or there's so many options. So let me just get those berries, our berry bar out of there. And it's still taking maybe a little bit more time. And so does our chicken. So let's just keep working on this salad and then we'll go back to that. So let me adjust the camera for you so you could see what I'm doing. What we're going to do is we're just going to combine the chickpeas, the peppers, the olives, and the greens. So we have the chickpeas, and that's a whole can drained. The roasted red peppers, the olives, and our greens. And we're just going to toss this all together. And one thing too, a good reason to use arugula is, excuse me, the water content is a little bit less than some of our other greens. So it will hold this, but it won't get so soggy and mushy or whatever. It won't get so absorbed. So let's set this aside and make our vinaigrette for this. All right, so we're going to put our wine vinegar in here. And our olive oil. This is about 3 tablespoons of olive oil, 2 tablespoons. Remember, we always have the 3-to-2 ratio for red wine vinegar and for apple cider vinegar. For balsamic vinaigrette dressings, it's a 4-to-1, 4 oil to 1 balsamic. And for the other dressing that we were making today, the lemon juice and olive oil, that's always a 1-to-1. So try to remember or jot those down if you can. 1-to-1 lemon juice and olive oil. Red wine vinegar and apple cider vinegar is usually a 3-to-2 ratio, olive oil to the vinegars. And balsamic vinaigrette's typically a 4-to-1 ratio, olive oil to balsamic. And then with all of those, I mean, this is just some basic recipes, and then you could really branch out from there. But for all of those, for the lemon juice and olive oil one, I like to do fresh garlic. If you don't have fresh garlic, you could always use granulated garlic and salt, pepper, and oregano. For the red wine or the apple cider vinegar, you could also use those same, the salt and the pepper and the garlic and the oregano. You could also, instead of using oregano, you could use some, you could use, what was I thinking of? Oh, like an Italian seasoning, like a melange of, or a melange of different herbs, basil, parsley, oregano, the Italian ones. Those are good fresh too. And then for balsamic, I typically like to do either fresh or dried basil plus garlic and salt and pepper. And for all of those, you just need a half teaspoon of the Dijon mustard. So I didn't even measure out the Dijon mustard because it's such a small amount. It usually sticks to the spoon. So let's get all those together. So let me just adjust the camera. I'm going to go ahead and whisk this together. And let's get our Dijon in there. Again, just a small amount. But it really helps that emulsification. And we'll add our cumin and a little bit of salt. And then we're also going to add some fresh ground pepper. That makes a nice little vinaigrette there. So let's set that aside. And I'm going to check on my bars real quick because I would like to broil that chicken just to get a little bit browned. Let's see how our bar, they should be nice and, yep, brown. They're good. So the bars are done. I'm going to set them right here and I will show you that in a minute. And I'm going to broil this chicken just to get it nice and brown for us. And I'm also going to take the temperature just to see what we're dealing with here. Remember that poultry, we always want to get up to 160. And our thermometer's over here. Let me just check on that. And we're at 149. So we should be able to just put this off under the broiler, get a little bit brown there. And remember, now that we have, now that we checked the temperature and it wasn't quite 160, we'll need to wipe that off, wipe it with an alcohol swab so it's fresh to go into the next, because we don't want to put something in when it wasn't cooked 100% to that 160, and then we could contaminate it after it's already reached that temperature, and then we're introducing those old bacteria or whatever you want to call it. It is bacteria. What I'm trying to say is you don't want to take something from that raw food and put it into the already cooked food that's not going to have a chance to come up to temperature again. So we're almost probably about 2 minutes away from that. So let's look at our salad again. So we have all of that mixed, and we're going to do that. We're going to put our dressing on top, and then we're going to add our other ingredients. So just do a nice little drizzle here. Okay. And then we're gonna add our, what would you like to add first? I think we add our feta first. Because then we'll be able to see the parsley and the red onion on top of it. And this makes a nice little, definitely a nice dish to take somewhere. And again, we're talking about the temperature danger zone. We're talking about taking things places. Of course you would want to, that chicken, you should probably either keep it cold or keep it warm after it's come up to temperature, one or the other. You don't want to keep that at room temperature. And then we're just going to toss all this together. And, but right now that looks really good where it's at, but we'll give it a little toss. Okay, so we have our salad here, our Mediterranean chickpea and roasted red pepper salad. Again, look at all those wonderful ingredients that meet the principles of the Mediterranean eating pattern. We have the olive oil, we have the fermented cheese, we have the complex carbohydrates and the garbanzo beans there. We want to make sure we're having that serving of beans. We have the fresh vegetables, we have the dark greens. We've got everything going here. Look at all those colors. Let me move our tray here so we could bring all of our dishes over. That looks amazing. I'm really excited to get into that. Let me bring my almond dish over for almond bars, berry almond. And let's see here, another pot holder there. So we have our little crumble on top. So I think it's nice to save a good bit for top, but you don't have to. And again, I did not press this down on this one. I think it's nice to see some of our berries coming through. So that's a nice little bar for your guests or to take. And then you could cut that. I would probably cut it and put it on. I'll do that too. Again, all my recipes will be on the website, laurazervos.com, and I will have all of the nutrition information there for you for the portion size. And I'll have some serving suggestions. Probably serve these. You could leave it in the dish. But that's the beauty of the parchment paper. We should be able to just take this right out of here, slice it up, put it on a nice serving dish. Your tabbouleh again, and this, we don't have to worry about this. This could sit out for sure. And this could sit out too. We don't have any, potentially everything can be hazardous, but we took careful precautions to make sure that there was no cross contamination. So let's take a peek at that chicken. Let's give this a wipe with, clean it off and then wipe it with our swab. And we will get it back in there and see how our temperature is and if we've got it nice and brown. And it's gorgeous. See here. Yep, we're at 165 and I am going 163. I'm going right next to that skewer and it looks great. So let's get these out of here and we'll get them on serving dish. Okay, that just came out too. So let's just get a nice little dish and we'll get those on there. We have our other tones here or not, but we could just put these here. And this smells amazing too. And it's going to be, that's why I like taking this one to picnics, is how many times you go to a picnic and the chicken is dry. And I guarantee you, this is not going to be dry. Move this out of here. But also, we talked about reserving, if you're making a large batch, let's move this aside. If you're making a large batch of the chicken, you may just need to make extra and go ahead and make some extra dipping sauce. I like this one. It's very similar to a tzatziki sauce. The tzatziki is going to have the yogurt, the cucumbers, garlic, lemon juice, perhaps some type of other acid, either red wine vinegar and olive oil. So this one's a little bit different than that, but it's nice to have that nod of the smoked paprika. And we also have our beautiful salad. So let me just adjust here. See if I have a little sip of water. I feel like I'm choking. So anyhow, we have our tabbouleh, we have our Mediterranean chickpea and roasted red pepper salad, we have our almond flour berry crumble bars, and we have our yogurt marinated chicken kebabs. So again, all the recipes, hold on, me, excuse me. Just have sorry about that. So everything will be on the website, laurazervis.com, with all the nutrition information, and also just a little, I always like to do a little short introduction about each recipe, and there's additional information on there too, like where tabbouleh comes from and where we have started, the benefits of marinating chicken and some other meats that have connective tissue, putting them in a buttermilk or milk or in this case yogurt, and then also talking about the some of the benefits of the Mediterranean diet and how you could stay on the path to wellness. Remember, it's not any one food. There's no magic food. There's no magic bullet. There's no perfect exercise, but a combination of choosing these foods and having them in your pattern over a 7 day period, if you think of that as a rolling period, a rolling average, if you will, and always choosing some really nice anti-inflammatory recipes and whole food ingredients, we could keep up the momentum and keep up that path to wellness. Just trying to choose those things more often. If we are at this grad and dad and party season and we do happen to have some of these other things that are not healthier choices for us, remember, you always have a next opportunity to do better at the next meal, and that one thing isn't typically going to throw you off track. So if you do want to have some of those things, go ahead and enjoy it. Remember, you don't need to have the whole piece of whatever it is to know that it's good. So let yourself try these things. If you have many events to attend, maybe you want to pick and choose which one that you're going to indulge in, and enjoy yourself. And remember, just like that pattern, and I just alluded to, there's no perfect exercise, to think of it that way too. You could go out for like a really long walk one day and it might not impact your wellness, but if you do it daily and maybe you miss one day, that is just to add to the consistency, you'll get those benefits of that exercise. So again, hope you try these. I hope you like them. Don't forget the tabbouleh. If you are gluten free or if you have celiacs, you could always substitute quinoa. So that's good to know. The chicken, you could also use chicken thighs. That's a good option. Sometimes that's more cost effective to use those. Either way, it's going to turn out nice and juicy for you. Either way, this is also a really great meal prep item. So they could be made ahead of time. I like to do the vegetables separate, especially if you are taking them somewhere, they might cook at a different rate. And then our bars, nice to have around, right? Nice little sweet treat. That also has the oats and the almond flour and the berries and all the fiber and all the benefits there, and then the antioxidants. And our salad too, with all of that, all the fresh herbs. We don't always remember that, but that's also a really large part of the Mediterranean eating pattern. In addition to having, enjoying our meals with our family and friends is really what it's all about. Having those 5 servings of fruits and vegetables every day, having that serving of legumes, the beans, the peanuts, those kind of things are also important. Choosing lean proteins, fermented dairy products, yogurt. We have the yogurt in there too. And then at the very also included. And there's a lot of fresh herbs. We use fresh mint, we use fresh parsley, we use fresh garlic, fresh scallions. All of those things really add to the brightness. And remember too, remember the lemon. I mean, the lemon is just an amazing fruit to add to our pattern. It really does add a brightness. That yellow is just an indicator of the goodness that's on the inside too. So they'll really elevate your salads, and try to use them sparingly, and see if if you could get that flavor versus, putting so much of a sauce or a dressing on them. Try to let the vegetables come through and the natural ingredients. So I hope you enjoyed today's class. Please reach out if you have any questions. It was my pleasure to be here. I hope you have a fabulous summer. Thanks and have a great day.